Hi
Hello, hey, Antonio. All right, next to Antonio, forgive me in advance, Renee Farsi?
رنيم.
Renee Farsi.
رنيم with an M at the end.
Runneem, thank you. Oh, sorry, first of all, I did not introduce, yes, I did, Art Jamil, okay. Runneem Farsi, curator and founder of AR Art Advisory.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And Hirokazu Tokuiama.
Yes.
All right, I got that. Curator of the Mori Art Museum in Tokyo. Once again, we have a great range of experiences for a good conversation here. So let's start. The topic here is cultural festivals as catalysts for dialogue and development. Let's talk, why don't we start here with you, Antonio? Let's talk, you've done big exhibitions in Dubai, you've done numerous projects. I understand you've done projects with the Metropolitan Museum of Art, partnerships along the, let me see if my research was right here, but can you talk about what, your experience with developing or even advising on projects that were by, all art is of course an interpretation of the world, but what has been your experience in terms of in your role as through AR advisory in...
Right, that's Running, but yeah, no, I'll maybe just kick things off and then we can...
Please, absolutely.
Excuse me, sorry, I confused the companies. Sorry,
worry,
you are Art Jamil.
Yeah, so I'm director of Art Jamil.
Art Jamil.
And we're a foundation based here in Saudi. We have a museum in Dubai, Dubai's Contemporary Art Museum, and then here in Saudi, Jamil, which is the kingdom's first bespoke multidisciplinary creative hub. Opened at the end of 2021. And then we also work internationally, so you're right, we have a partnership with the Metropolitan Museum of Art and also a long-standing partnership with the V&A in London, which is home to the Jemil Galleries, named after the Jemil family, and also the Jemil Prize, which is the world's prize for artists, contemporary artists and designers who are inspired by Islamic culture and design and history. So we work in multiple different formats and different places. I think, going back to your question about kind of ecosystems and what it is to sort of think about the arts in terms of kind of building up these kind of complex ecologies, if you like, as how we, build a mature scene, then, we can think about the kind of art world at large, and all of us are part of this kind of incredible peripatetic world where we meet up with each other here and there, and we have a kind of global community in a way. And one of the big kind of shifts in the last, or really fundamental shifts that have taken place over the last 20 to 30 years is what used to be known as the art world, which tended to be kind of a very Euro-North American-centric understanding of what the art world is, has kind of exploded, and the rest, that art world has really woken up to the fact that there is an art world, which includes the Middle East and South Asia, and that here, obviously, there have been producers, and I think Rنيم will talk about that a lot more, about the kind of incredible history of what's been happening in Saudi leading us up to this moment. But then, those kind of ecologies then sort of break down to what we think of in the kingdom itself. And obviously over the last couple of days, we've been talking a lot about what a commercial art world looks like, what return on investment looks like, and then thinking about the commercial and government. And I think where we sit is really in this kind of space of civic society. We're involved in the world of philanthropy. The Jemil family are very well known as philanthropists as well as business people. They're just celebrating 80 years of business and 80 years of philanthropy, which is incredible. And we think about this kind of ecosystem here in the kingdom, what it takes to kind of really create a kind of balanced art world that includes this third sector, which is all about, when we think about return on investment, we think of the return being, a kind of fulfilled use. It was really interesting and I thought very inspiring to hear His Excellency, the Minister of Investment, and for someone coming from investment, talk about the arts as a way to achieve a fulfilled society. And his question of kind of, are we fulfilled?
Right.
Was really pertinent to this.
Certainly the riches of the art, and also the riches of what it brings to a community.
Yeah, well, we tend to think about it on a much bigger scale than that. We think about kind of, this return on investment being multi-layered across many fields, including youth, talent development, the kind of critical soft skills you need for the future, but also how do we build a society that's discursive, where people have a sense of stake in their future.
Yeah. Heyrokazu, I want to ask you about all of that with the Mori Art Museum, but before I get to you, I want to go back to Runneem and ask you, I know that you've been involved with some big public artworks, some sculpture projects. Can you talk about, from your experience, how those literally spark dialogue and even spark development around, certain communities? Do you have experience with that?
First, I must say I'm blessed to be part of that kind of development in the kingdom, and it's not a one-man show with environments like that where the community becomes an integral part of the exhibition, whereas you need to ensure that you're not imposing, whether it's imposing the sculpture itself within the landscape, or you're imposing that kind of genre of artworks amongst a community that is yet to understand what is public art installations. So there are multi-steps. Its plurality is key in the sense of including the right architects to work with you, including the right engineers to be able to monitor wind reports of previous 10 years, etc. So there's multi kind of faceted process in which we take to accomplish what people see as a beautiful public art, ginormous exhibitions. For instance, we spend more time negotiating sandstorms and wind reports as much as
practical realities.
As much as we spend time where placement of the artworks aesthetically will make space. And in that it becomes more challenging because the flow is also at stake, because you want to allow the visitor to have their own connection with the narrative that you're trying to put forward. The environment, I wouldn't say constraint, because we adapt and you don't compromise, you adapt in such situations where you look and you see where you can adapt this work to have, a conversation with another, landscape that's there, and you're not easily moving things around as you would within walls. And grand exhibition could also be within walls and still have that kind of experience. So you're really orchestrating a full platform in which you cannot identify the beginning and the end. You leave that to the viewer, and that becomes, your biggest challenge as a curator, and you need to let go. And that's the biggest challenge personally. As curators, we micromanage, but then that becomes your biggest challenge, is to just let the viewer be and let them accept what they see as is. So,
like the artist does, right? When the artist is done. Heyrokazu, you were nodding your head. Does this sound very familiar to you?
Yeah. Oh.
In terms of your experience at the Mori Art Museum, in terms of sparking dialogue and bringing people together to think about, important issues?
Well, the Mori Art Museum is a private museum, and owned by, we are part of the company called Mori Building, which is one of the major developers in Tokyo. So we are part of this commercial complex, and we are located on 53rd floor of high-rise building, and we are literally kind of suspended above Tokyo. So
You're an oasis of art, right?
Yeah, so it gives us really a unique position that we always have to think about a community around us. At the same time, we always think about how does it work for the audience, coming from New York and Berlin or Saudi, and how does it work speak to the people who just, take a train to the museum. So we have diverse, the community, diverse, the agency, the audience. And, this is, we are open 2003, and we have 2 decades of experience, and we're still asking the same question that every exhibition we curate. So there is no a clear answer, but the most important thing, as she said, the artwork is most important, the great part of our practice. So the main goal is how we can amplify the impact of diverse artistic expression we kind of found in the world, and also how we can make it accessible to diverse audience we have.
If I may add it, I think it's very interesting. When you mentioned the audience from abroad, I think this is something that we have been focusing on lately in the kingdom, is the local community and how the locals are going to perceive it. So
Which is important for the impact.
It's very, very important. And for us, that remains a priority, whether it's for the exhibition content or even the programming around it, to allow, people are intimidated with a subject matter like, arts and culture if they're not within this world. And I feel like what we've been able to achieve with, different exhibitions and programs is to really allow the local public to be the focal point, to allow, lowering the barrier of accessibility, allowing them to engage and be part of it, allowing the local community to work with the artist in producing the artwork. So knowledge transfer becomes also part of the process that we hope for, looking for longevity for this sector. We're looking at 5-10 years ahead, not a year ahead, and measuring the success of this edition and not further ones. So I feel like it's very interesting because everyone is thinking of the audience and the global world, and we still want to remain locally local authenticity, but it's embedded in your local community. If they're not part of it, you kind of lose your identity by trying to, not that, international audiences are not important, but we just realize the importance of the local community and in making, these initiatives successful and being actually part of that success, not as recipients, but actually as part of the makers of these initiatives and programs. So.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. When I started working at Jemil, I asked our board, how will we know if this is a success?
Right. What does success look like?
What does success look like? And we're opening this kind of creative hub for the first time, which is fully accessible to the public, totally free. And the answer from the Jemil family and the board was, it'll be a success when the community feels they own it and that it belongs to them. So this is, has always been the kind of guiding light. Yeah. And I think just picking up on what Reniem was saying, what's one way to do that is to think, how do you co-create together with your audience? So, one example of that, we've been now in the 3rd or 4th year of this film project that we do out of our cinema. High Cinema is Saudi's first independent cinema complex. And we started this project, my colleague Zohra started it, it's called Kef Hayak, and it basically goes out, which means kind of, how's your hood, kind of thing. Okay. And it invites people in the community to make their own short film about their own community. So that's kind of one example of a project that's very micro.
I can only imagine the results would be fascinating. And, yes, exactly.
Yeah. So
give somebody a camera, right?
Right, and it's a way of kind of also documenting the huge changes that are taking place in Saudi in one generation to the
almost
next.
Real time.
So it's building this whole kind of body of documentation and research and reflection on on what the hood, your hood looks like and what Jeddah looks like as a city. But you can imagine when those films are shown in our cinema, everybody's family and friends come, there's like a huge celebration, and it feels incredibly kind of embedded in the community.
That seems the definition of creating dialogue.
Yeah.
Let me ask you about, art can be very challenging, it can be provocative, it can be jarring. Do you look for things that will challenge accepted norms? Do you look for things, this for the whole panel, art, do you look for art to push the boundaries of culture? You're nodding, Hirozaka?
Yeah.
Heirokazo?
Yeah, we do. It's kind of our most important thing to challenge the artist. And as kind of institution, it's like, in other panel, like people talking about like importance of the education for like people who engage in art, like audience. But I think the most important thing is like educate the people inside the museum too. So like we try to, when we challenge the artist, like really the idea of like beyond the border, that means like we really have to accommodate that artwork. That means like we have to be a strong team and also like a flexible. So like that, like just not just like showing artwork is like important for the context of art, but it's just for, this also like important for us as an institution to remain relevant all the time. So like that's why we have to find like great artists who challenge us.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me ask about the development side of this session title here. Development. Have you seen? We've talked this panel now for 2 days. This conference now for 2 days about the importance of embedding art and festivals and culture into things, into long-term planning. Do you see? Have you seen practical examples of where, you know, a sculpture installation, obviously you described how it really engaged the community in Art Jamil, but are there examples where art or a festival or sculpture came and from that you saw businesses or you saw, you know, more community than you had before, and certainly that would certainly be a win on the development side?
An example, I must say, my colleague and dear friend Ayel Bekri was speaking before us, and
Yes.
Jax is a live example of that. It's a district that, you know, turned warehouses into a creative district that allowed for that community to come out, to engage, to come together, to have a sense of belonging, a sense of, although I personally believe that this has been evident back in the 60s and 70s, where artists had their communities throughout. It did evolve a lot, and I think we're all super excited about the news His Highness shared yesterday about the University of the Arts. I must say that also back in the 60s, there was an institute for the arts in Riyadh, which brought the local artist community together, and the graduate of that institute became the pioneers that kind of laid the foundation of what we see today. So it's kind of a full circle into obviously a much grander scale, fitting the need of, you know, society today. And I think we're all super happy and excited and glad and blessed to be here and part of this world today and cultural realm in the kingdom. And just like, you know, with Jax and with, you know, other entities as well that are trying to build the communities for the people to feel that they have a platform to engage, produce, and become who they are.
Interesting. In our last 2.5 minutes here, let me ask you, Saudi is such a youthful country, so many people are young. Do you have any specific, this is for all three of you, do you have any specific programs, although obviously the Mori Art Museum is in Tokyo, but Tokyo is a very young, you know, it's a very, generally a very young population. Do you have any specific outreach for youth, for Gen Z, Gen Alpha, the people that have their nose in their screens all day long? Is there any effort to try to open up the world of visual, tactile pleasures?
Oh yeah, I mean, we have a huge focus on youth at Jamil, and a lot of, I mean, we run 2/3 of the complex with the theatre, the music, visual arts, the cinema, but we also work with a number of other Saudi cultural entrepreneurs as well, design spaces. We just have a fantastic new design space, Ruwak Dahar, that's just opened, Aish Baking Academy, the community theatre, and all of those attract a predominantly young audience, particularly Fennec, youth theatre. And we start very young. We have a specialist children's centre and go all the way up through the youth programme, students, all through to lifelong learners. And there's this tremendous thirst and enthusiasm to engage with the arts that you see amongst young people. Particularly, I guess, I mean, thinking of the panel before with Paul from the Music Commission, and him talking about, right, we know we have demand, what we really need is supply. I mean, my colleague Iman is here, who runs High Sounds, our music programme. We do everything from festivals through to meet and greets, workshops, and you can see this tremendous influx of young people into the music scene, wanting to learn, wanting to experiment, wanting to then think, okay, well, how can I take that forward to the next level? So yeah, I mean, it's all about youth. It's a predominantly young country.
Rani?
I mean, I agree with you. The whole purpose of, I feel, the university or either other educational programs or mentorship programs that are being done by the museums, upcoming museums from the strategic phase. I think it's a priority to engage, mentorship programs, shadowing, local youth, shadowing experts that aim to pursue the same expertise or career path, exchange programs that are always on the table between entities here and abroad. Again, for us to showcase what we carry and to also gain knowledge from the outside world. And excuse me, sorry, when I'm mentioning Hay is also a very valid example of, community engaging platforms. I know I mentioned Jax, but also Hay, and I know you guys also have very strong programs, mentorship programs. You scout where, the gaps are to allow the youth to engage in, niche career paths. So, I mean, there are plenty. I can go on and on with the different programs that allow that.
Yeah.
Hirokazu, could you wrap it up for us to give us a sense of what kind of youth engagement you have at the Mori Art Museum?
Well, we put a tremendous effort in the learning program, like community engagement. So like for the program, like we use the AI, we use like TikTok, we use so many new tools.
That's a good way to reach young people is TikTok.
Right. So that's how we approach to the audience. We have to do like a FaceTime, and we have to see the people, and we have to talk. That's the only way to engage with the audience. So
if you don't have the youth, it's really important to bring them in, and it seems like there's so many initiatives now that Saudi youth have enormous resources and opportunities to engage with art and with all the development. It's an impressive, intentional push towards culture and creativity. Really exciting. Well, thank you very much for doing this rapid fire. We're going to move to our next panel here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.